The answer here is the Arizona Cardinals. And the Cardinals, don't get me wrong, people are talking about them as they should be. They've generated a lot of buzz, especially after the offseason. Of course, signing J.J. Watt, other guys like A.J. Brown, and James Conner, of course, notable signees that have been brought on to this Cardinals team. But the thing that I can't get past is that the buzz seems to stop with the question of, can the Cardinals contend? It's, yeah, they've put together a great team, but then they are never given the same respect that teams like the Seahawks, the Chiefs, the Packers, not respected after yesterday's horrible game, but just teams like that, they're not getting that respect, and they should be, absolutely. And I think that's a problem. Kyler Murray is a cheat code. I mean, that guy, he is so difficult to defend because you never know what he's going to do. He's one of the most accurate deep ball passers in the league, and also has this insane mobility to match it. And he's got a great offense around him. The Cardinals' defense is amazing. Chandler Jones and J.J. Watt on that D-line really take some heat off of the secondary, which isn't even that bad. And so, yeah, I just think the Cardinals are way more well-rounded than the Chargers. And in terms of taking one sleeper pick over the other, and if it comes to a team that isn't getting the respect as contending for the Super Bowl as they should, it's absolutely Arizona.
Well, let me counter here. Now, a lot of people they write off the Chargers because they see the big bad Kansas City Chiefs at first place in their division, which makes sense. Kansas City is a great football team. Patrick Mahomes, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, great football team. But the Chargers are much bigger of a sleeper team. Like you said, Kyler Murray, great quarterback. Justin Herbert, only getting better. The one problem with the Chargers last year is, man, they just can't. It's a turnstile at that offensive line. Mm-hmm. Everyone gets through. But they add Corey Linsley. They add Rashawn Slater in the draft. This team is more well-rounded now. Justin Herbert, like I said, only getting better. Keenan Allen made a huge stride in his game, 9 receptions for 100 yards yesterday. This team is only getting better, and their out-of-conference schedule consists of the Eagles, the Vikings, the Bengals, the Texans, the Giants. Those are all wins right there, and if you're the Cardinals, you look at the Cardinals division, the Rams, the Seahawks, the 49ers, you can't guarantee any of those wins. I think the Chargers are a more well-rounded team and definitely more slept on than the Cardinals are.
Yeah, see, I would disagree with you there because honestly, yes, the Cardinals are. The NFC West is, I think, hands down the most difficult division in the NFL, but the Cardinals contended there last year. The only thing that set the Cardinals back was the fact that they had 2 games come down to missed game-winning field goals, which would have put them at 10-6 on the year and be an automatic in for the playoffs, and the fact that Kyler Murray was spending the second half of the season playing through shoulder injuries and an ankle injury, and so he was not himself. If you had taken those things out of the equation, also, of course, the fact that Chandler Jones was injured, and we see, if you watch the highlights of yesterday's game, how much of an impact he makes alone on the Cardinals defense. They weren't them full selves last year. And so, and even despite that fact, they still contended for the playoffs. And so now that they've brought that in, I think if we're talking a sleeper team that I want to pick to actually have a shot at contending, I think the Cardinals are title contenders, and I think the Chargers are at this moment contenders for the playoffs. In my brain, the Cardinals are an automatic for the playoffs and contending for the title. I don't think the Chargers are there yet.
My point with that, I know the Cardinals, they went 8-8 last year, and you say they contend for the playoffs. That DeAndre Hopkins Hail Mary changed everything. That team probably goes 6-10 without the DeAndre Hopkins Hail Mary. That changes the whole aspect of the season, and the fact that they were contending for the playoffs on one Hail Mary, it doesn't really make much sense. I think the Chargers are contending maybe for a title this year. They're a very young team. They have a young core. Austin Eckler back and healthy now. Justin Jackson, great backup running back. Derwin James back on the field, probably the best safety in football. You can argue right there between Justin Simmons and Derwin James. They have this whole team. They came back. They went 7-9 as a young team. They were banged up last year. This team, they're already 1-0. They come out, they played a great Washington team, won that game, took care of business. Now they have Dallas at home. I think they win that game, and they start a huge role, and especially in this division with the Raiders and the Broncos standing in their way, this is a team that can really get on a run and really get hot. And I just think the Cardinals, with their out-of-conference schedule mixed in with the NFC West, we talked about, the best division in football, I just don't see the Cardinals going on a roll like the Chargers could.
Yeah, see, I guess that's just where we're going to have to agree to disagree. I think the fact that the Chargers have a young team is great. It makes them very exciting to watch. The Cardinals were there once too. But also the fact that they are so young is why I think they're not at the point to be contending in the way that the Cardinals are with the veterans that they have on their team, that they're playing around J.J. Watt, Chandler Jones on the offense, bringing in guys like A.J. Green in the receiving core, and obviously D-Hop. So I just think that bottom line for me is that I think the Cardinals are where the Chargers are aspiring to be, and if we're talking about a sleeper team that I'm choosing to actually have a shot to contend for the title, yes, the Chargers are going to be very exciting to watch. Both of these teams are, but the contender, I think I'm going to stick with Arizona, and I think we're just going to have to agree to disagree on this one.
Fair enough. I just think that the division is a big roadblock for the Cardinals. I think injuries can be a big problem for the Cardinals. Kyler Murray, the mobility could be an issue. You talked about the ankle was banged up last year. This receiving core, can it really hold water? And the secondary, this secondary probably among the worst in football, other than Budda Baker, of course. But this is a secondary where they play against receivers like DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp twice a year. Like, this is going to be a secondary that's going to have problems all year. So can they hold water? We'll see. But again, like you said, we're going to have to agree to disagree. I'm going to stick with the Chargers. This is going to be a young team, an exciting team, and I think they can make a big playoff push and make a lot of noise come the end of the season.
Yeah, I'd agree, and I think that Cardinals D-line will take some heat off of that weak secondary, like you said. But that is all the time we have. Thanks for joining us. We're going to throw it back to Max.
And that wraps it up for our show today. But before we go, let's just take a quick look at our sided debates to let us see what the users think. It seems that most users agree with the NCAA's new NIL policy, and it comes in pretty much a majority vote that people agree, and this is something that should have happened in the NCAA. And then for our last debate between the Cardinals and the Chargers, it seems like the biggest sleeper team is pretty split, honestly. Users are kind of divided, Cardinals and the Chargers, especially after both teams just had great Week 1 wins. It seems like users are still a little bit up in the air about that. But be sure to vote, comment, and like the Sided Debates on the Sided Debates app or sided.co. And also feel free to put in some debates of your own as well. And as a reminder, always follow us on Instagram and Twitter at TakeAsideKU. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it, and we will see you next week.